are stories that connect us to ourselves and each other. These stories reveal who we are and show us the many vivid, wild colors of our truth. Welcome to Soul Wanderings, where we raise spiritual awareness and foster connections through these shared stories and personal experiences. And now, exclusively on KGRA Radio, I give you your host for Soul Wanderings Radio. Here's AJ.
Hello, Wanderers. This is Soul Wanderings, and I am AJ, your host. As always, I am just perfectly happy being here with you tonight. If you are listening to us now live in the moment, say hello to us in the chat rooms. There are a few places that you can do that. If you visit us at KGRA db.com. There's a chat room there. If you visit KGRA Digital Broadcasting YouTube page or Facebook page, there are chat areas there as well. So wherever you're joining us from live, please say hello. I'd like to know who's in the chat room. I do interact with all of you during the show while we are spending time with our guest. I am in deep appreciation for all of the activity that goes on behind the interviews. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you, because you are here to support and listen, and I'm just showing up to entertain you. And our guest is here to share some words of wisdom and enlightenment, inspiration, motivation. Whatever amazing bit that you find from our guests, there are no accidents. You are meant to hear it in this time, in this space, and I am thankful. I am grateful that you are all here with us tonight. And I don't even want to lollygag. I just want to get going because our guest is up in the middle of the night. She lives in Belgium, and we are going to utilize the entire 2 hours spending time with her. For the last several years, our guest has been opening her eyes about the level of control and engineering in her life. And she is now teaching how to reclaim our health, how to break free from overtaken handlers and gurus, and how to keep freeing ourselves from mind control in course and private consultations. So she offers these as services in classes, courses, and one-on-ones. And she shares a lot of free content on her YouTube channel as well as on her website. And we'll be sharing all of that information as we move along. But let's welcome our beautiful guest tonight, Ariane Persei. Hello, dear.
Hello, AJ. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really pleased with meeting with you, and I really love what you do. These conversations, the simple ways of life. That's also something that I create myself, and definitely seeing tremendous value in that.
Definitely, there is a value in making these connections and having these types of conversations. And you actually reached out to me to share what it is that you do, and I was delighted to hear from you. And after seeing a lot of your videos on YouTube, I was definitely fascinated and interested in having you on the show. So thank you for reaching out and being a willing participant and sharing your journey story with us and everything that you desire to share tonight. This will be a great night spending time with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been really enjoying the shows you recorded with Kimberly McGeorge. I really love the atmosphere that you both kind of were creating together. It was like a cozy moment to wrap ourselves around. And then I also listened to other shows you did and kind of really recognize a lot of similarities in what you do and how you do it, and also very much appreciation for the way you do it with kindness and warmth, which I think are both very needed.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for seeing that in me. Kimberly was an amazing guest. I definitely will be having to reach out to her and have her back. And it was a good experience. And I know tonight will be just as beautiful because of everything that you are and everything that you desire to share with us. So, as always with my shows, I like to have the guest explain to us in their own words who they are, and what brought them here to this moment. That's a very long story, especially in your case, because you've had quite a journey yourself. So let's keep it simple at first because you do have so much to share and we can go in so many directions. Uh, let's do a short introduction of you and what it is you do today.
Right. So I think a lot has started for me 6 years ago when it was the end of my 20s. And I think, you know, how they say that a lot of mind control is starting to break down also around age 30. And there is some truth to that. And I think all of us can kind of review a lot of our lives, of our past over and over again. I've certainly done that the last few years, and also on a journey to heal my body also from acidity and some types of chronic illnesses. And I think those both processes go hand in hand. The healing at a body level and also kind of processing all the trauma we have to go through that we don't remember, or all these invisible layers that are part of our life but that are kind of hidden, and also acknowledge all the trauma that is added to us every day. And that has been also a big game changer for me, is to consider that I have to release trauma every day. It changed a lot my way of thinking, my way of organizing my day. I was able to make more room for that and not pushing through. And so now, for a few years, I have started my online project, Persei. I have started to write online first about what I was understanding of programming and mind control, and how I share a lot of my personal examples. Because I think even if we have like very specific things happening and very specific programming, and, you know, it depends on our cultures and the families we are born and what's around us, they are also sort of universal. So I started to do that, and later to produce also some videos and kind of express part of my creativity like that, and also showing up to be available for others. And kind of, I think when you put some work out, then you also, you know, you put a vibration out, and then you also navigate this, like what comes your way, what kind of, you know, new conversation, new stories are building from the work you put out.
Exactly. What was the moment that you had when you were heading into your 30s that you realized that you were having these experiences and that you were able to shift them? Did you have like a moment, like, you know, right offhand that this was it? This was how I knew something was not okay for me.
Yes, there was like a big crossroad. I think it happens from at different moment of our life. And for me, it was at the end of my 20s. I was extracting myself from a very handled type of relationship romantically. We were kind of brought together to basically to slow me down because he was unwilling to work on some of his victimhood patterns, and he also had no empathy, which makes any relationship kind of hard. So it did bring a lot of suffering. And at the same time, my mother was going through a very difficult episode herself and leading to her suicide. So it was extremely hard and painful. And at the same time as well, there was many connection with friends that I have to grow apart from, and kind of review my own life, review which associations I was making, So the moment was when I really locked the door. It was physical, but it was also a sort of alchemical process. And from there, starting to heal and rebuild myself. And in this case, it took like a good year before I could find some peace of mind, some inner peace, not loop into obsessive thinking. That also later with a more alkaline way of eating, it's also helped not to loop into obsessive patterns. So that was the moment from which I really refocused some of the energy. But also I was still looking for a lot of healing outside, still. So of course I ended up in a few more guru traps. I think we all did. Some different types of experience with the therapy world and these kind of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm glad that you brought that up. That is something that I wanted to discuss at some point during our time together, was getting caught in those traps with the gurus and the people who are are saying that they're there for us to assist us, and really it's more mind control and manipulation. I just know that from my own experiences in the spiritual community that is around me, and how the people, myself and the people that are in the space in my healing center, how we set ourselves apart from those traps, from
Mm-hmm.
from controlling other people and how they choose to heal. Because it's everywhere, but we can talk about that another time. But it's good for people to know, and I'm glad that you brought it up, because not every healer, and I'm putting air quotes, you guys, if you can't see us on video, is a healer.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are there; they're part of the system and part of um, the manipulation that's occurring in our world.
Mm-hmm.
A wolf in sheep's clothing, if you will. Right?
Definitely.
So
Definitely.
those were big times for when you were transitioning into your 30s to have lots of relationships and lots of life, and coming into this awareness of the stories that you had known and participated in before, and how those were shifting for you going into your 30s. Do you feel like that's like a really pivotal time for most 30-year-olds, when early 30s they start questioning themselves about who they are, what's spirituality, what's religion, what's true, what's false, and
Mm-hmm.
then they really start working on themselves. Sometimes it's they have a catalyst that drives them down that direction, and sometimes they just get in their 30s and they're not a kid anymore, right? It's a whole different level of being a human being, and so you wanna do things differently and be more adult and more responsible, but it can take you down different paths. Do you feel like that's an average age or an average experience for a lot of people? 30 seems to be a big deal.
Yes, I do. I see how, the heavy programming of school, and also just
Mhm.
living with parents who are themselves programmed, is like, then, you leave the roof of your parent, but the programming is still goes everywhere you go with you. So, I noticed that even if I had left in my 20s, a lot of my decisions were still very control, and I mean they always are. So it's kind of like deprogramming layers after layers. But for me, when I look at my 20s, I see that a lot of my relationships were controlled. I could feel they were. I could feel I was resisting, but I didn't remember, or I wasn't. I didn't solidify the knowing that I have now enough to kind of pay more attention to it and not be kind of very influenced by it. So I could easily lose a few years, or going from relationships to relationship. So it was very interesting how it was. And that's only when reaching a lot of suffering, that's really something kind of came back, like no more, like I really want to build something else. I want to make different choices and kind of find the strength for it, because deep down I knew there was something else, even if it was not in my reality. And now I see that it's sort of a remembrance of other possibilities. So and so this reestablishing this connection kind of with the spirit, and at the time it was very, very thin, and I think the path is to make it grow and to kind of strengthen that connection, kind of bringing back these dormant abilities, bringing back these gifts that are used from us, but that then we want to also use, like make the best of it in our daytime reality.
Yeah. No, that the conditioning when we're children is so strong, from going to school, from what our parents taught us, that their parents taught us, that their parents taught us. And the thing is this is our human experience, right? And we're told how to have it everywhere we turn. Every direction we go, we're being told how to be, how to act, what to do, what to eat, what to watch, who to be friends with, who not to be friends with. It's everywhere we go. The conditioning and the mind manipulation is everywhere. So if someone's not aware, they're just not aware. But if someone is coming into awareness, it can be scary. It can be confusing. It can feel very lonely. What would you recommend to someone who is going through something like that, so they didn't grasp onto the fear thoughts that go through their head when they're realizing just how much conditioning and manipulation they've been through their entire lives?
I think if I had to give myself a piece of advice, it would be maybe to do more like manual therapy, like acupuncture and receiving massages and things like that. Not the mental things, but the physical ones, because they do help to release trauma, to kind of integrate. So I think I would do more of that. That's what I do now. I kind of try to find a balance between putting some work out and making progress, and also kind of integrating and helping to integrate a lot of energies in, and if generally it's a mix of everything around us. So if people have like a stable friend, or someone they are sure of, it was my case. I had one friend from university, and it was one of my only true bond at the time, because everything else was engineered. A lot of relationships are meant to kind of handle and diminish the impact that we put out, right? So these are not these were not beings seeking healing. They were too caught up into their own programming and not seeing. Some of them were even enemies, really working to push and repress. So I think it's important to make a choice and to seek this tribe, and it's gonna morph along the years. And sometimes, you're lucky if you meet some of your allies, and then it kind of, you can build healthier types of relationship. And I think we all have these memories of what is possible.
Absolutely. It's true too, when you meet someone who you find is your friend, and the friendship ends and you realize what purpose they had in your experience, that they showed up to teach you a different experience than what you had originally thought. Tell me a little bit more about that. What do you feel that is? I understand we're all on our journey, but you talk about stand-ins and you talk about handlers and that type of energy. Like, how are we to know how are we to know that in that moment they're there to teach us something as a human? Or is there a way that we could possibly know that they are something other human, if that makes sense?
Mm-hmm. I think it's a lot. How we feel is gonna tell us a lot about the nature of the relationship. Now, maybe not from the beginning, because there are a lot of manipulative techniques. Like love bombing is one of them, where people just show you an appreciation, but it's to get something out of you. It's to put you in a certain state, so you would trust them and you would bond with them, and then I notice also how many other people around me were there to court me into some agreements as well, into some contracts, sometimes to dark forces energy. So this is another indicator. I think when you build something, you kind of feel that is genuine. What is genuine in my life, and who are these genuine beings? What are they creating with their lives, and what are they seeking? And for me, at that age, at the end of my 20s, I noticed that my friends and entourage, they were not seeking healing. They were pursuing some chimera, and it was linked to programming. It was linked to the many different programs. And I noticed that it was destructive and kind of bringing me down, like in a tornado, downwards. So I really had to extract myself if I wanted something different from my life, and working on, instilling more self-love. And these people around me, I had a very, very little idea about what self-love. They could not take good care of themselves. The programming was so thick. And so it was really interesting. And so I think we have to distinguish which bounds are engineered not for our best interest, right? And
Right.
and which are, and it's, from my experience, when people are coming into your life, are contacting you, there is a percentage of time where there is an architecture underneath, and it doesn't happen randomly. And a lot of people believe in synchronicities, but I have grown to doubt a lot also about the synchronicities and why certain beings enter my life.
Really, so many people I know believe in the synchronicities, and uh, so you go ahead. You were going to say something.
I think it happens sometimes, but it's more rare than we think, right? You have to be in creation to have these synchronicities happen, and many times it's part of the program, and only maybe 1 year later you realize how this was brought to you.
Are you someone who believes that everything happens for a reason?
I mean, oftentimes I can spot like why, because of some programming, but I do think there is also like a seeking from the spirit. So there are some signatures that, yes, are brought through from the spirit itself. And yes, there is always a reason, but sometimes the reason can be also some underlying programming, right, underground, and it takes time to kind of trace it back and recognize what is really playing. So I think it's good to question, and I also learned to kind of settle more in the moment as well, and not be in fear or paranoia, right? Because you can also take that road, and that's also why integrating the body trauma is important. So you can be relaxed to whatever comes in your day, and more or less ready for what is coming.
Yeah, and that does take a great deal of work and awareness. It's not something that I feel like we can just do right away, because a lot of us don't understand how many layers there are to the conditioning and to the programming. There are so many layers to it. And the work that we do here as human beings, unprogramming and coming to the truest form of ourself as this human, it takes time. It takes our entire lifetime. It's not work that is just going to happen over months or years. For those of you who are joining us live, I invite you to visit Ariane's website, and you can do that by looking at the screen. I am losing my mind right now. I'm like, our producer is going to pop it up there for you so you can see it. And for those of you who aren't watching on video, check out ARIAPERSEI.com, ariapesei.com. And we are going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue to hear about Ariane's journey story. Stay close.
Hey members, the new KGRA-DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA-DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA-DB.
I don't want to talk about it.
I don't want to talk about it.
Families don't have to talk about everything, but they should talk about how to plan for an emergency. Get tips and resources to make your family's emergency plan.
Welcome to the new KGRA digital broadcasting website, thekgradb.com. Here you'll find great new content, including the KGRA classics, great shows from our archives. You'll be able to see the show times and information so you can see what show is currently on air. The on-air live button. So just go to this section and you'll be able to hear the show live with exceptional sound quality. We also have the Vault section. Make sure to subscribe to get access to great content and special features. We have the make content for our latest news and events, so make sure to sign up and you can be part of our forum. So make sure to check out the new KGRA digital broadcasting website, thekgradb.com. We look forward to seeing you there, and we hope that you enjoy the new website.
Welcome back, everyone. Short break. Thank you for sticking around and waiting for us while we did what we needed to do in order to have this station. Tonight we are visiting with Ariane Persei, and she is sharing her human experiences with us tonight. Her journey story where she opened her eyes about the level of comfort and engineering in her life. And I just think it's really neat when we have those aha moments that bring us into a whole new awareness that we didn't even think was possible. It wasn't even our awareness to know it was possible. And you've done just that, and you continue to do just that. I invite all of you to check out Ariane's YouTube channel. Not right now during the show, but I want you guys to check it out because there are tons and tons of videos where she shares with you, and there's so many good bits of like information, not just on mind control, not just on healing like your emotional body, but your physical body, you talk about all kinds of things. I do have to say, one of my favorite videos you just put out about a month ago, and it was a garden tour of where you live and just some thoughts that you felt like sharing. And it was so organic and authentic. And it was such a short video. I wanted more, by the way. But it brought me so much peace and grounding just listening to it. Your voice and the ability you have to share. It was just really nice, refreshing to have that experience from you. I mean, you have a lot of great videos, but that one stood out to me right away because it was just like meditative in a way. So she shares all kinds of different things, informational and beautiful. And I just really encourage you guys to go to her YouTube channel, which is under Aria Persei. So it's ARIAPERSEI. Welcome back. Thanks for hanging around while we went on a break and I rambled on.
Thank you. And that video that you're mentioning was special also. I had the footage from last season, and I did the voiceover, and it was kind of a way also to integrate, some new configuration that happens in all our realities. And I remember I was in a very conscious state when I recorded the voice. I think it's important because we convey a lot with the voice. And something I love to talk about also are these signatures. And, you have it in your voice also, a very warm signature. We convey a lot with the voice. And I think the voice is also changing as we evolve and as we kind of reclaim.
Yes, I agree. And it also is situational depending on what we are experiencing in our life at that time as well. There are so many layers to humans. I find it quite fascinating. So, once you went through all of these experiences that you've gone, like in the beginning that you went through, what was the reason or desire or pull towards sharing with the world all of this amazing information that you share with us? It takes courage and putting yourself out there. Plus, well, you're detoxing from all of the ways that you do, in all of the ways that you do. Technology, being around electrical equipment, I'm sure you had some type of thought or feeling regarding that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes, the desire, I think it's to connect with like-minded individual, to find that tribe, when realizing the tribe wasn't around, it's to kind of go on a quest. Now there are some traps to that longing that can be taken advantage of by the matrix. And, if the architects can, they will. So, but I think there is a knowing about what we have built together in other life, and a desire to kind of build again, even if it here in this realm, it comes with a lot of resistance and traps, and we have to be smart to navigate the mind traps and how the psyche is always pulled one way or another, right? As soon as you're in relationship with other, the architects like to also use all the trauma, all the weaknesses, all the short-sighting, to kind of create more engineering. So it does require from us to be really, really conscious. And as you were sharing, yes, in the detoxing journey, it's a way to denumb the body, because we are very numb in our emotions. In a lot of our trauma is kind of hidden because we have to deal with that daytime reality. And I think for me it has to do with making my daytime reality better, making it more inviting, creating more magic in that daytime life. And I see how it is possible, especially, and we don't need a lot of like-minded individual. If we have like a few close friends, And I do feel we also need them like geographically near us, not only online, because there is something to being like in the same environment, in the same geographical space. But it doesn't take much. I noticed that a few LC balanced bound can already do a lot for mental health. And then, yes, I grew more sensitive to, I think, it's an awareness thing, because all these frequencies, the 5G, the Wi-Fi, we don't feel how they kind of harm the body, but they do. So it's just a knowing, and the studies, for maybe they did on the blood and how it affects the blood and how it fries us. So kind of coming back to, for example, cable, but it's a process. For me, it took me 1 year to go back to something like cable internet and cable everything, and still I used for years, though I knew it wasn't good for me. I still used the Bluetooth speaker in my car for a long time. And I think that has also to do with the mind wiping drugs and, forgetting, because when I was in my car, I was thinking, oh yeah, I need to look for that cable. And just recently I got that cable that I could have bought like 3 years ago, but it took so long just to buy that cable, just to remember, just to put my focus. It's a 5-minute focus sometimes. So isn't that incredible?
It is. We go all over the place. We in our thoughts, especially, we're here one moment, and in another moment we're somewhere completely different. That's my experience today. I know you can relate probably in your own way, but when there are days you're extra connected versus other days where you are connected, but you can control the connection a little more. But some days it's just on and it just stays on, and it's really challenging to do the human things when you're in that space. Like everything is hard. Just even like the simple things like opening a door or writing a note or using your phone, like you're not it's like you've never done it before. You're like not in your body. That's how today has been for me. I feel like I've been out of body, and I thought it was really interesting that you would be on the show tonight because of the topics that we're referring to. And I spent a couple of hours at the phone store this afternoon, even just trying to figure out how to turn my 5G off and fix some other things on my phone, because it's like a necessary evil in today's world to have these devices all around us. I mean, I couldn't speak with you now or reach out to my audience without them. I want them in my life, but also being aware how it affects me on a physical level and mentally and emotionally how it affects me. And today has been one of those days where because I'm not grounded, I haven't been grounded in my body the entire time I'm kind of up around here, that this stuff is definitely playing games with me. This technical stuff. Isn't it interesting how that works?
Yeah, I think it's a sign of good progress to finally have the space for these 3D things, because we do need to address them, and it helps us tend to expand further. If we can reduce a little bit of the armor around us, it makes a big difference. And what you are sharing about dissociation or being out of body is also something I'm familiar with and working on. Just to be able to navigate also all the 3D aspect better, I think it helps also to be in the body and be high frequency and be conscious, be present, jungle with all of that.
Yes. You bring up the 3D world that we live in right now. I understand on a spiritual level the shifting that's occurring globally, as far as us going from a third dimensional to fourth and possibly even fifth dimensional in some aspects. What's your take on all of that as us as human beings living in a three-dimensional world? Is it necessary? Do you believe that must we must elevate to a different dimension in order to keep our human experiences alive? Or what's your take on that?
I think it's like a collective process. It's also a collective adventure here. There are things out, like we are incarnated in the flesh, and there is like this push that we are going through in this incarnation. Many of us don't have a lot of memories about who we've been, for eons. So it's a journey also with that. And of course, there is something happening. We can see it in the frequency around us, right? There is a rise, and there is a push, also an invitation for ourselves, right? If we kind of answer the invitation, so it's a fascinating topic, and I feel health help a lot to rise in frequency. Also, cleaning our relationships and being sharp about it, being wise. And I definitely feel the invitation, and I see it in my consciousness, in what I'm able to think, experience in my life, and all that is possible in this lifetime. And I think that's something that there is a distinction here, because there are a lot of simulated aspects, right, to where we live. So for me, it's been important to acknowledge who I am, and that not everybody maybe has this spark, and to learn to differentiate the different signatures also around me. It helps to know how I get involved with some of these signatures, and how much I retrieve, and I see a common aspect to all the beings who have this spark, who have to really fight and battle here to protect their spirit, to protect their energy from being used and harvested in many different ways.
Exactly. So do you want to talk to us more about that? About, you just said used and harvested. A lot of people may not understand the terminology. Well, my listeners are pretty on top of this topic, but for the sake of conversation, and it's so fascinating to me to get everyone's point of view, what's your take on that, and what do you feel like is occurring?
Well, I've noticed that, for example, they play a lot with the survival programming that's going to trigger the adrenal gland. So I notice when there is like an endocrine harvesting happening, I notice it in myself, so I know when I'm being harvested, when I'm slightly in fear states, or these kind of things. They are like low frequency states. And there are many other, there are all the hormonal states. All the heart opening as well can be harvested if we bound with the simulation, which, some of the simulation being can be really skilled at kind of plugging to the heart chakra. And at first I thought it was like an energy exchange, right? I was thinking, oh, it's a reciprocal bound. But later on, maybe 6 months later, I was thinking, well, that connection wasn't feeling as organic as it feels with other, they might not have been that warmth. So I realized that it was like a point of harvest, a point of access into my energy field. And that it wasn't like something in reciprocity. It was, so I think it's important to kind of make the difference between something that it feels balanced and also contain some of these, sometimes that's what happened in festival, where people are in these intense states, right? Opening their energy field. And it's also a big point of harvesting. So I like to navigate my life with more like a high frequency neutrality state, right? And that's where I try to come back when I'm out of balance, because, if I'm upset, if I'm, things start to break down I break things, or I think it all happens to us because we are fast manifester as well. So.
When you say they, who are you referring to?
Well, there are different levels, right? There are the 3D, like agents who are used, or people can be accessed, like the backdrop, the simulated being, they can be accessed by the program to have like a certain effect. But I think like if we really zoom out, these have to do with like many different alien faction. They all have their own interests, some are our enemies, some are not. So it's like really recognizing also the signatures of all of that. Then there is like this organized power, that with some of the cabal aspects and all of that. But this can still be kind of very 3D. So I always zoom also a little bit out. I feel there is a lot of control and oppression coming from certain races, and I feel I've always felt their signatures. I'm not someone who's going to see a lot or have a lot of visual insight, but a term like a knowing and a sentience of it in my body. For me, it's gonna be a lot like that. Like I'm gonna pick a signature that I feel. I have felt sometimes like a smile, like like someone was enjoying my misery. I got this insight. It was more like a feel. I don't know if you have experienced that.
Yeah, I mean, we all have an intuition, right? And some of us are more intuitive than others out of practice alone and just having that knowing that we are intuitive human beings. And I feel like we know when we know. We know if something feels off and we know when something feels good. And it's learning to come back to our true selves as spirit and knowing that intuition and what a gift it is and can be for us, especially in times of discernment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You have gifts and abilities yourself, right? Claire abilities.
Right. Yes. I've been, as I've been denumbing my body, and I also needed to trust more in them, because there is intense gaslighting. That's also what schools are about. And, even the spaces of our families don't always kind of make room for them. So, there was a time in my life where I wouldn't trust them at all. Right. I wouldn't say of myself that I was psychic, but I still was at the time. So it's also like acknowledging and anchoring and then working on denumbing. And as you say, also practice with it, right? Mm-hmm. So it kind of begin to be more anchored in our life, and we know better how to navigate it, because there are also a lot of attempts to synthetically hijack that, hijack or imitate the signature of something, right? This can happen as well.
All right. And this topic can go over so many different directions, right? Mm-hmm. I just think about all of the times where I didn't listen to myself and the repercussions of not trusting my intuition. And, they weren't necessarily negative repercussions, but I'm coming into this conversation very human, just for the sake of the conversation. Well, and I'm a human. But from that aspect of it, because, I'm on both sides of it. We don't know until we have like a profound experience. We can trust, but humans have this deep desire to have proof.
Mm-hmm.
Like for some reason, probably the conditioning, religion has taught us that God is real, God is true, and it just is. We've never met him or seen him or her or whoever it is, but we believe with all of our heart that energy is real. Yet, we do not believe that our energy is real. We don't put that much faith in ourselves than we put into the other things we're told that are true and real. Isn't that interesting?
I feel that when you remember more of who you are, you make different decisions also
Yes.
with your life, not buying into all these 3D aspects. If I add the knowing that I have now in my 20s, I would have made different choices. I would not have seek the same people, I would have been aware of some external authority programming that was like inviting me to seek outside of myself instead of kind of reactivating that knowing. So I think it's something we all have to deal with, like kind of learning to trust ourselves again. And it's an important process in our life, because sometimes you have to go beyond any type of programming, and sometimes you have to go discover areas that not many have explored, and this is your path. So yeah, it is important to go against sometimes very, very anchored programming, where you have like a majority agreeing to some aspects, and sometimes you have to be the one to go and explore something else.
Right. On your website, you have an extensive bio. It's quite long. There is a paragraph in it that I'm quoting. I started to look within where the knowledge was waiting to be unlocked. From there, I have looked into deprogramming the direct consequences of MK Ultra trauma-based mind control that has been specifically targeting me from the beginning. Now that's a topic that's been discussed time and time again since the awareness of it. What was it, from the 1950s even? It's been quite some time. Tell me about that experience that you had. How did you know to target? Take us through that experience.
I think it has to do a lot with this signature, right? When in my case, I started to realize that it was like specific attention, right? There is a lot that is just based on artificial intelligence. The system is kind of automatic, but I feel also each of fire creation being do receive like a special type of attention. Usually like a handle type of attention, right? It's like, oh, you're doing too well, or you're on your way for more expansion, and it's a game, so we're gonna complicate your game a little bit more and put some obstacles and see how you deal with these ones. And these are also the next best counterfeit, because they do upgrade, like the system does upgrade from us and learn from us as we remember, but we are memory wiped, so we are at disadvantage, right? And the system remember how to further entrap us. So that is how it works. And it is a special type of attention for any fire creation being here. And mind control and MK Ultra is widespread now. There is a lot done. So beings like me, who I grew up in Belgium in a family that doesn't have like very clear ties with Freemasonry, for example. So there are lots of risks for me that I never discover, that I'm involved in a lot of covered programs, that my energy is used at night, that there are consciousness transfer and all of that. But with who I am, that's a path that I'm gonna visit to remember. And I see a lot of the controlled opposition as well, with some specific controlled opposition agents that are there really for many reals never to discover what is really going on in their life. And me, I can pick it up in the signature in the life of my friend, though sometimes they don't have the same awareness of me, they kind of know, they kind of seek, but maybe they haven't been like as passionate as me about this kind of research, but I can see it playing in their life as well. And I can, if you spot patterns, you can see it playing everywhere.
Right. When you come into awareness, that's the thing, the patterns. You see the patterns and the behaviors of other people, and you understand that they're not aware, or connected. Oh my gosh. It's creepy to me. It's creepy to me how controlled and conditioned and manipulated we are when we come here as, uh, quote unquote, free beings, yet to remember who we are and come back to ourselves. But there are so many adversaries fighting against us learning our truth. It just seems so counterproductive in so many ways. But you guys, we have to take a break. We have an entire hour to continue our journey with Ariane tonight. So if you stay close, you'll get to hear more about this interesting topic of conversation. We'll be right back.
Hey members, the new KGRA-DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA-DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA-DB.
I don't want to talk about it.
I don't want to talk about it.
Families don't have to talk about everything, but they should talk about how to plan for an emergency. Get tips and resources to make your family's emergency plan.
Welcome to the new KGRA digital broadcasting website, thekgradb.com. Here you'll find great new content, including the KGRA Classics, great shows from our archives. You'll be able to see the show times and information so you can see what show is currently on air. The on-air live button. So just go to this section and you'll be able to hear the show live with exceptional sound quality. We also have the Vault section. Make sure to subscribe to get access to great content and special features. We have the make content for our latest news and events, so make sure to sign up and you can be part of our forum. So make sure to check out the new KGRA digital broadcasting website, thekgradb.com. We look forward to seeing you there, and we hope that you enjoy the new website.
Hello, lovelies. Welcome back to Soul Wanderings. We're hanging out on KGRADB.com. You can also find us on KGRA Digital Broadcasting Facebook and YouTube pages. If you want to hang out with us in the chat room, it's a good place to hang out. If you have any questions, make sure you type them all in caps so I can grab them and we will ask our guest. We'll see what she has to say about your question. Tonight, we're hanging out with Ariane Persei, and she is visiting us from Belgium, of all places. Crazy. You're all the way across the world from us, and I am so thankful that you woke up in the middle of the night to spend time with us. Thank you so much. You have so much to share, and it's so amazing the way that you think, and it's so different from most of us, right? We question things. Not many humans dive so deep into it as you do. I'm sure they're out there, but they're probably not in the public eye. So you're definitely doing some work, some deprogramming, some multidimensional healing for sure. Before we went to break, the topic we were talking about, you we were talking about being here and having all the conditioning and the programming. You talked about our system being wiped when we come here, and most of us believe that. Most of us believe that to be true, and that is something that we have an understanding of. But why do you think it's wiped? Why are we these, infinite spiritual beings coming down to have this human experience without any knowledge of who we are, what our purpose is, what we are doing in the other dimensions, or even that they're real? Why do you think we're here having this human experience?
I think here are a lot of I know that a lot of my dormant abilities or even my abilities are being used, in project at night. Sometimes you have these vague memories about your dreams and it looks like you have a whole other life, and sometimes you're not even you're in another body. I happen to be a man sometimes, like really very different from my actual envelope. So I think because it's not an easy reality to navigate, right? There is a lot, it's dense here, there is a lot of resistance and push. So I'm not sure all of us have chosen to be here. But even then, I don't have like my own memories about how I ended up here. So that's something I would like to have my own memories about, later in my life. And I think it's gonna come, it's like the same with these memories at night, like more and more is coming, like a vague remembrance. And sometimes it's very, it feels like hours and days that I've spent during the night, but sometimes it's just a vague memory, but the knowing in the body. So yeah, I don't have like the specific knowledge about all of that, but that's my feeling about it. My feeling about it is also to make the best out of this existence, and put work out for others also, for it to be useful to other. And it's also a way to connect and to build things together, because we are all widespread. It's not always easy to have like-minded people in your geographical areas, and people who also are kind of on the same level or kind of carry these high frequencies in their own signature.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you ever feel like you get so entangled in knowing or shifting who you are as a human that you ever forget to be human, to have this human experience?
Yeah, that's something. Yes, sometimes I get so caught up into my own patterns. For example, I'm very driven and focused, but sometimes it can be too much. Sometimes I can forget to check if there is balance in some aspects of my life, and I think it's important. Sometimes these patterns, are being used against us. If you're someone who is sharp and focused and maybe borderline, sometimes obsessive, then this might be used against you. And it was my case, for example, earlier, where it was hard for me to, if I had material like a book or something to read, I would go over every point very precisely. Instead of really, now that I know a little bit more about my abilities, I'm more like surfing on it, right? I don't need to go through every little word. I can kind of scan and trust my intuition that, so it helps to be faster, because I don't have to be like exhaustive in all that I research, which was time consuming. And so that's how the system is kind of using one of my, I don't know if it's a strength, a gift, or a weakness. It can be a little bit of both, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel that way. I feel like I always refer to it as a blessing and a curse. And maybe that's not the best wording for it, but that's the best way that I can relate in my experiences now, because there are times I get so deep into the knowing, the wanting to know, that I don't stop and remember that I don't need to know all of that right now. That my purpose here as a human is to enjoy the simple things in life, like the things that we don't get to enjoy in the spirit world, in other dimensions, like we get to do here. And although it is very dense, like you said, there are some really beautiful things about being a human that I don't know if we're going to have those experiences anywhere else, right? Because our system was wiped. We don't know. We have no clue. And it is about finding the balance, like you said. I think that's very important, that we have balance in all things, because we can go down the rabbit hole one way or another. We can decide we're going to be all human and not worry about anything else and the repercussions thereof, or we can go down the completely other path and be opposite from that. And I think it's good to be both. I think it's good to have the awareness that we are bigger than this human experience, and that there are things that are going on in our human experience that are deterring us from having those experiences or remembering who we are. And um we can I mean, everything is choice, right? We can decide which path we're going to go down. But I think at some point, our path needs to cross each other every now and then so we don't get lost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you were sharing here, I was kind of processing that I am. Another way to see it is like we get proposed sometimes also these kind of 3D temptations, or like like a derailment program, right? And these operations can keep us busy for a few months, sometimes in the past a few years, and then we have these bodies who have like a certain longevity, right? Also because we are, there is a lot going on in how our bodies are used also in experiment, although we don't always have the memory of it, but sometimes if you piece everything together, you kind of get that knowing, when you realize that sometimes you get up exhausted and for no reason, right? There is a reason for that, right? And sometimes strange memories about dream time, right? Kind of, it's like a vague memory, but it's there. So I was really kind of processing that with like these operations, right? That they always try to cord us to different operation. Like you have like the collective, like we have seen a lot of them happening, trying to cord us into their program, trying to get us in reaction, right? Because when we are in reaction, we're not creating magic that is in us. And then you have also this operation on the micro level, on around relationships, around how we can focus our time and energy each day.
Right. I relate so much with the being tired when I wake up. I know I journey in my sleep. There's no doubt about it. There are things that I remember that there's no way is just a dream. Just because of the way I physically feel and emotionally feel when I wake up, that's not a peaceful night of rest. And rememberings throughout the day of those experiences through the night. I'm interested in knowing more about that, more about the dreams and what happens in our sleep state with our spirit bodies.
Right. So there is a lot going on. I think sometimes there are consciousness transfer, right? I think sometimes they do also experiment, because I already 10 years ago, I was already writing, having this kind of stiffness in the neck and in the back. And is that linked to experiment that they do things that they are, spine fluid being taken, and not long ago, I had like a lot of bruise. Now I do bruise easily, so I would get a bruise easily, but there was like many, and the day before there was none. So and that day I didn't really question, right? I did go on automatic. I watched the bruise and I was like not even formulating the question in my head. And I think this starts there, right? Because there are episodes in my life where I didn't really formulate the question or had enough space because of the drug, because of the mind control, right? That encouraged not to ask question, not to question what's happening in details in our reality, right? And I have dreams, of being a man on another planet, someone really muscular with long hair. I still remember the dream really well. It's 10 years. So it was an impacting dream for me. And here recently it's been more like I feel that I have bounds in my dream, like these are a deep relationship, but I just keep the vague memory, and I don't have like a specific face that come back, but it's just this knowing. And it feels like time. It feels like I spend a long time away from this daytime reality. So that's what I'm working on, and I will put a course into place. I put my notes in a folder to kind of organize more all of this, right? And it would be a container to kind of reflect together and hopefully bring more memories also to the forefront.
I keep a dream journal next to my bed. I really encourage people to do that, not only for the intuitive messages that come through, but because of moments like this that you want to capture and remember and possibly piece together. Is that something that you do? You say you keep a folder, but is that like a daily thing that you do when you wake up, is write everything that you can recall?
Yeah, I have started to do that a few years ago because I know how important it is,
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's just one line, but I will make the efforts to write it down if I have a memory, for sure. Sometimes it's like notes, and then I need to kind of reintegrate them. I do need to reorganize them, but I have now like a file, on the internet. I used to write it in a physical journal as well. I still have a little bit of that. And I think it's very interesting to go back to see what was in our dream maybe 1 year ago.
Mm-hmm.
Who also the characters, right? Because sometimes it's character from our direct environment. Sometimes it's people from the past that we have not seen in years.
Mm-hmm.
I had that with, someone who was in school with me when I was, 10 years old, and I haven't seen her for 15 years, and there she was in my dream. So what does it mean, And in her case, it's this handling energy, it's this frustration, it's someone that doesn't have my best interest at heart, right? So these figures are important to identify. Now, there are also these cover memories. Sometimes, it's like to kind of hide something that really happens, they put like some of the architects put like a cover or a false memory on top, and this can happen with dream time and also with daytime reality. So I have, started to recollect some weirdness in some of my memories, whether daytime or, nighttime.
Mm-hmm.
And for example, when it's like I have this memory of my father like throwing on the ground like pots of jam. But like in my memory, it's weird because the jam cover a lot, and it would have needed like hundreds of containers to kind of. So it's a weird memory where, is it something that's been implanted to hide something else, or?
Yes, that's what's fascinating to me. And it's happening in our world right now. Uh the propaganda, and I don't want to get political. I mean, the US is a hot mess right now, as you know. And it is oozing into other countries, obviously. But the part that I'm referring to is the distractions. So something's happening here to distract us from what's really going on over here. And so many of us don't see what's really going on over here. We were talking, my producer and I were talking about this before we had you on tonight. It's so real and it's so deep and thick, and the programming is so intense right now. Do you feel like that's because there's some sort of spiritual warfare going on right now? Really, like we are coming out of a third dimensional way vibration into a fourth and possibly fifth, and there are other beings distracting us, making this all possible so we don't become those elevated beings? Do you think that it's all connected? Like, what's your thought on that programming and distraction?
Absolutely. Exactly. That's, because you can spend your life being distracted, right? And, we have this longevity and, each age has their program, right? So I think it's endless, the distraction that is offered to us, but I think recently it's very intense as well because, there was this this gap between 9/11 and now, like this 18-year and a half, and they even have like an Illuminati card for that. So there is this gap where we are now in the middle of a very intense operation that is lasting like a few years. And it is intense for every fire creation being because you have to resist in your everyday life. There is a lot of trauma, it triggers the nervous system. It can trigger we have really to be strong if we don't want to revisit kind of an old depression and all these kind of things, because it can be a battle. Now there is also like the belief that is really deeply ingrained. It's a battle here, so it's a matter of like engraving that from the psyche as well and creating something else, right? Because it doesn't have to be a battle in the way we experience it. So I've been also learning to kind of really deeply relax in my days. And I think it's very important. We're not taught that. And I think to survive and to be mentally sane, it's very, very important to find these moments where we can really feel safe and relax and unplug and replenish as well.
Right. Now more than ever, there's so much talk about self-love and healing and being in the now and being present. All of these really beautiful things when we say them out loud, but the work isn't it's not as easy as it sounds. But you bring up some really good points, like literally, I know for me, I can only speak for myself. Growing up, my conditioning was you work hard, you work hard. So work, 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 work. You can't have this without work. Can't do that without work. And it's just totally programmed literally in my DNA. And I work a lot, but I've noticed, I've been in awareness over the last 5 or 6 years, especially how toxic that belief is and how damaging it's been on not only my mental health, but my physical health. And taking care of ourselves is and should be like our top priority.
I can relate to that because I'm also a hard worker, right? That's how I manage to kind of create some content, but sometimes it can play against you, right? That's when maybe it's been the same for you, and maybe that's why you took a break. But I also had to kind of retrieve a little bit my energy and kind of question a little bit my own work programming and see if it was serving me right now and how it wasn't at certain level, right? For me, it was extremely hard to kind of retrieve and disengage my energy because then I have to face other things maybe within myself.
Exactly. That's where I was going. It's a trauma response.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we decide to slow down then all of these other experiences that we haven't looked at are going to come to the surface. And so many of us are terrified of that and don't want to look at that and don't want to deal with that. And so we remain busy, even if it's on an unconscious level. It's happening. I know for me, that's what was happening. I had several trauma experiences in my life. And I mean, we all have. I'm no different from anyone else, but the working definitely was a distraction. And I find at times when I'm like, oh, I'm just going to get this one more thing done and then I'll be ready to relax. I just got to do one more thing and then I'm ready. I catch myself doing that because that is so deeply conditioned to inside of me. And the more that I'm in awareness of it, the more I slow down, things are coming to the surface and I am having to look at them. And it's not scary. I'm thankful for those opportunities of healing, but it is something that does happen. And it sucks. I'm going to be human and say it sucks. I'm glad it's happening, but it's so hard, right? It's so hard to work on those parts, especially when the conditioning is alive and well.
I noticed that the plugging goes very deep into how it really cored you, the work. Sometimes it's very AI related as well. We interact online and all these kind of chords in our heads and everything. So it is intense, and I'm kind of trying to rewire to still get things done, but maybe in a with more flow, more tuning in, knowing when it's time to kind of, but it's hard, right? And I noticed that when I retrieved as well, I maybe I incorporated a bit more distraction, but it's also a sleepy road because it can numb me really fast as well. So I kind of have also to shift out of the numbness, which can be comforting as well. So it's been really interesting to notice how all of this is happening.
Yeah. And on your YouTube channel, you have your title as Deprogramming and Integrating Trauma. What do you mean by that?
Well, deprogramming from all the programs, for example, the black and white thinking programming, which is a big one, right? In the past, I was reading maybe too much into patterns. So it was, I was trying to put things in a box also. So that's a trap in itself because I can miss some good opportunities, or I can miss to explore something with someone due to that programming, right? It's designed this way, but there are like hundreds of programming. External authority programming is another one that makes you seek outside of yourself, right? That's where all the gurus and some handlers can also enter your life, right? Because you put the keys into their hands as well. But we've been really encouraged to think this way by school, and school discourage our own independence, our own critical thinking, and all of that. So victimhood consciousness is another big program, right? Thinking it's not fair, why is this happening, either on the collective or on the micro level. So that's how we can trace back that kind of programming. So recognizing the signatures of all these programs is really important, and to integrate them to kind of have a fulfilling daytime life, right? And then integrating the trauma we don't remember. And for me, it's been really a life changer to consider that I wake up traumatized, that I wake up and I need to clear some traumas of the things I don't recollect. But, for that, working with some essential oils, just taking it more easy, not putting too stressful things also too early. I think each of us, we have to know if we early bird or not, and how much time we need to kind of process and be ready to interact, and then also place boundaries, right, with interaction that maybe we don't need to engage with. And with that, I think about postman, for example, right? I gave myself the permission to put a sign. So I and also to to put boundaries that I don't want to interact every day. Here I have like 15 different postmen coming to the house, like with different companies, and they all have their energies. And I had a lot of programming to be polite, to be nice also with everyone else, especially if they do a service for me. But it's also sometimes interruption in my own process. So do I really need to engage with them when it's not necessary, and then giving myself this space not to sometime.
Oh, that's good advice. We do have that huge obligation hanging over us that we need to show up and be a certain way for others. But a lot of times it's not the healthiest thing for us to be doing.
Right. And a lot of women are trained this way, right? To be present, to
Smile
be
and be
service, to prepare beverage so everything goes well, right? And I see it playing. So sometimes I do feel I have to go against that programming, who I am without that polite programming, because I picked the signature and it's something that I've been trained to be. And that was playing a lot a decade ago in my life. And be there for everyone, be of service for everyone who needs it. But then, maybe it's a bypass also of my own healing journey. And, we all have to sometimes also to navigate the savior implants. And that's very intense, because sometimes the whole body is triggered into that program. And that's something that I keep on working on. I've seen it playing a lot in my life, and it still plays now. At least now I can identify it. I know I have an implant. I know it can be played, right? I'm faster at recognizing and kind of extracting from some situation as well when I feel this is not healthy and this is playing out.
Yeah, and it seemed to be said with people in our lives. How you said earlier, you had to remove yourself from certain friend circles or certain people in your life. It's the same thing. We can give ourselves permission not only to not engage with the postman, but to also not engage with other people that we may have even called friends or family at one point. That it's okay to set those healthy boundaries and do what's best for ourselves.
Yeah, I think that's very important. And it's not easy in the family context, right? Because there is all this story that we share together. But I feel on my path it's been essential. With my journey, it's been, when my mother departed, it's been also an invitation, and I had not her to disappoint. So it was also freeing in some ways. And that's a time where I really bifurcated a lot from mostly all my family, and took distance, kind of rewire a little bit more how often we were seeing each other, the habits there, kind of also retracing some of the things that happened, for example, with my brother, and some of these things were not friendly. But until then, I wasn't giving myself the freedom to see it and acknowledging for what it was. And it takes a little bit of processing, right? Because of course it's not something I wanted to believe in, that there was this dark influence around me with him, and I wanted to believe into what he wanted me to believe in, but that was not the truth.
Right. That brings me to the topic of multidimensional healing, because I feel like we are together, like our family, soul families. Are you familiar with soul families? I don't know if that's a belief that you carry, but I believe that we are with each other for several incarnations, and we show up in different ways. And there's a lot of healing to be done generationally. And you talk about that in some of your videos. Will you share a little bit about the generational healing and what it is and why it would be important?
Yeah, I do share that knowing about some spirit allies, right? And kind of sometimes you don't know them yet in your life, but I often felt that drive to go look for them. Now I've looked for them in the wrong places where they were not, or not so many allies. And when I also kind of disengage from acting too much from this longing, that's when they started to appear more in my reality, right? And for me, it's like like-minded beings, who are gifted, also where you can have these kinds of conversations that we are having, kind of talking about under the cover life, right? What's happening under the cover life. And I think and sometimes there are things also that comes in the way to separate us from what is good for us, right? There are things that are put into place, so we are not there at that precise moment where we're gonna have this encounter, and instead the architect kind of proposed this crappy version with like a handler instead, right? So the architect always gonna encourage these kinds of relationship and discourage the good profitable ones, right, where we kind of grow together. Sometimes you have like specific people who are sent to like make a character assassination of someone that is good for you, or kind of create division. I don't know if that happens to you as well, but I've also been training myself to recognize when this is playing out. And I've noticed that a lot is being done to separate me from what is good, or to distract me from what is good for me.
I think that's a constant, especially in the line of work that I'm in. We have, so I own and operate a spiritual healing center during the day, and there are other locations, different people doing similar things. And I feel like in the spiritual community, like I said earlier, there aren't always people in those lines, those positions that are really here for our highest and best good. They're not really here to assist us. And they send people to us to do their work, or they'll do it. Dirty work, I call it. And it's a constant thing. It happens every day. And I'm choosing carefully my words. And that's why I'm struggling to share, because, I don't judge the experience. I don't judge them for where they're at. It's unfortunate that it's happening, but it's a constant everyday thing that I experience with them or people who come into the shop, because everyone's in a different place, right? But it's not all like rainbows and butterflies like people would think that it is. We're actually doing a lot of really deep, heavy work in these spaces. And crystals are great. Incense, I mean, if that's your jam. But the work is in the classroom, in the sessions, like I always say, and it's having these deep conversations and bringing awareness to each other, and finding out who is really in it, who's really present in this arena, if that makes sense. Words are hard when I talk about this, because it's not that I'm afraid I'll offend anyone. I just have to tread lightly, because you never know what they're up to. And you can say and do something so minimal, and it could be taken a completely opposite way. And I mean, all I can do is blast them with as much love and light as I possibly can. But, everyone has their free agency and can do and decide if they're going to receive it or deny it, right?
For me, that's I've noticed that a lot playing also, in people who contact me through the work I put out. Some of them are sent with unclear intentions. Some are there to sabotage. When you're organizing something that has the impact to produce positive change, the system often gonna send like someone to lower the frequency of what you do.
Yes.
And then it's a matter of knowing, because sometimes I do know, I would like to believe the story, but deep down I know that this is a trap. This is like a bait. So sometimes I know that I can take some decisions, before, to kind of prevent some of these traps to go even further, but they are a big part of my reality. Now, I as you, I think I work on keeping an open mind, and I noticed I did many progress since for the last few years, where I do consider all new people arriving in my life with a lot of openness, and I don't read too much into it until proven wrong, right? I prefer to do that way because I notice that if not, you can miss a lot of good opportunities, and so.
Right. And our intuition isn't always accurate. It can be off also. So it is good to look at it from a neutral state.
Yes, and react whenever we need to take actions, right? And in the present moment, I feel it's the most efficient for me. And integrate trauma as it rises, right? And you can be positively surprised by people, and you can be negatively surprised. And we have no power into what someone else is deciding for their reality. So of course, they're gonna be surprised with also programming coming up. And being played in our reality.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Through all of your experiences, you talk a lot about detoxing, not just your physical body, but on a cellular level. And we haven't talked about that yet. So share with us about that experience that you're taking place in.
Yes. So it was like in 2018, I started to have like a bad receding gums. I already had receding gums, but this was getting painful. So the fear of kind of losing my teeth was a big motivator into addressing some of my food addiction, and also looking for answer further, right? I already had changed a lot in my way of eating, realizing some allergies, something that I really didn't feel good when I was eating them. And later on the way, I learned more about my genetic map. I got 2 iridology reading, and now I'm also learning in school iridology, right? I think it's fascinating because it explains a lot, right? So I learned about mine, and in my case, I have a lot of chronic lymphatic congestion. So learning more about that is helping a lot. I'm learning now that I also need to move. It's essential, though sometimes in my life I really didn't have a lot of energy to move. So we have to kind of build it up on small progress, and then it can be more active in my life. That's I'm gonna feel much better. Ideally, it would be every day that I need to move, but if I can already make it 4 times a week, it's great. And then I found the principle of the mucus-free way of eating and the mucus lean, and I transitioned myself. I was already kind of not so far from that, so I had to take a few items out, right? And they made a big difference. And from there, my body started to detox. I would have like some built up in my ears. You can do ear candling and have like this dark wax getting out through your ear. And another important step was to get my kidney filtering right, because they weren't filtering since I was a newborn, and that's why I was also experiencing some skin problems. And with that change of lifestyle and experiencing fasting, they kind of started. It took maybe 8 months before they did, but when they did, I noticed a big difference, right? Because I will evacuate some of this acidity that is building every day, and from there also my skin problem did stop. So and I just started to do better, right? With chronic fatigue was getting better. It used to be extremely complex for me to wake up in the morning, to get going, to transition from nighttime to daytime. Nights is much easier. Things are getting lighter generally, and I've learned to do with less dense food, right? To cope with also reality and trauma. And it took a while, right? Because, it's getting used to a lighter way of eating. So I think it's best done gradually, right? Step after step. And also quitting coffee, quitting stimulant, things that really have a big influence on how we make our decisions also, because coffee does have a big impact on that, what we decide and all of that. So for me, it's been really fascinating. And then I've naturally grown to teach it and share it. And everyone who's trying with this experience result, especially, for when we are swollen, we are kind of less swollen and dealing with that water retention and getting these fluids a little bit more on the moving side. It makes a big difference.
Huge difference. Yes. Yes. How have you felt through your detoxing and cleaning your body out on a cellular level? How has it affected you spiritually?
Well, that was at the same moment that I started my online project, right? It was in 2018. So that's when I created the space to be focused and spent 6 months to myself create my own WordPress template and, be really more sharp and focused. Because the food program is very distracting, and it does require a lot of energy to digest and stuff like that. So I didn't have a lot of space before that, and it really created a lot of space in my life. And I did some long fast, so just on liquid. And then, you don't interact with solid food. So you have a few more hours, maybe 4 hours more every day. And it can be impressive, because what will I do with these hours? And so it allowed me to declutter. So less density in my surroundings, right? Elevate the space around me, like kind of pay more attention to that. What do I want to create? Have more space to create what I really want to do, and there is much more. I've got all these notes, and it's a process, because there are also specific programming, like there is not enough time, I'm running out of time, and this create our own reality, right? I'm creating my own reality with this programming that have been specifically designed and programming me, so I never get to the end of it. So it's a balance also to find. Still now I'm working on decluttering some papers, because I accumulate so many notes and stuff, and this is all creating, clutter in my physical reality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, that's just beautiful. Such a commitment. Such a big commitment to do what you do. Has
Right.
that soaked in just how much and the amount of love you have for yourself to make those commitments to have those big changes occur?
Well, I think, it's like a calling that I answer, and I think that's might be similar for others. Then that's how I kind of relearn how to take good care of myself. But I wouldn't say it come easily, right? But when I do declutter, when I do focus on these, sometimes this is very 3D as well, right? It's objects, it's furniture, it's density, it's basement, it's attics, it's belongings, so it's 3D, but it's essential, because then our spaces are lighter. Sometimes because of my obsessive pattern, it can be difficult to take an afternoon to take care of my plants, for example. But I feel much better when I feel they're more like they're more I given each of them specific attention to make sure things were okay. Sometimes you have like bugs on plants, and maybe I wasn't spending time to treat them. Now I do a little effort, to treat them with essential oils or things like this. And I feel it's always going to tell me a little bit about my mental health and how good I do with that. If I also think about watering them, or, if you're preparing your own garden, when things are little, you need to water them and not forget them, because this can be critical for them. So I think that that's a good indication of how sharp I am, how numb I become, because the program kind of invites you in this numbness over and over again. And
Yes. The numbness, the distraction, the taking us away from the experiences, which you go over. The words. You have a wide range of topics that you discuss on your YouTube channel. They're all connected, but you're all over the place. You have a lot of things that you share. Is there one topic or one experience that you have above all others that's your favorite thing to talk about and share?
Well, I really keep on exploring the wound of non-recognition, right? Because it's a wounding that a lot of people have, and that can drive a lot of our life if we don't pay attention and see it playing. So it has also.
What do you mean a wound of non-recognition?
So being in that programming where we feel wounded from not being valued, recognized, seen, and heard by others, right? And probably by ourselves first. So for me, it's like a journey of first remembering and not seeking that acknowledgement from the exterior, right? Because it comes from within first. And I noticed that it's a programming that can engineer a lot of distortion, right, in relationships especially, and sometimes in healthy relationships, because if I'm always in that longing, then I'm not really present for what is needed to be explored right now. And I've seen it playing years after years after years after years for myself, and I'm able to spot it also all around me. And it's really something that we build from within, from remembering all that we have been, and of course everything is done so we forget, and then we kind of seek for any type of recognition outside of ourselves. So I really like that that topic. I have made a video on that, and I like to re-listen to it myself, right? And for me, I also linked it to the simulation aspects, right? Because the simulated being, the backdrops are never gonna be able to witness us, to see us in how big and wonderful we are, because they are programmed a certain way with heavy and thick layers of programming. So wanting recognition from the majority is never gonna be healing. And I noticed on the past that if you can share mutual appreciation with a few others who are on your level, and then you can bring a lot of healing from that, and there shine better your light. So that's really a topic I like to talk about and explore. And I think it's an important one, because when it's leading our life decision, it kind of derails us from what is really important, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I love that you've brought up several times to have your people. We aren't meant to do this alone. And you've talked about having discernment in the types of people that are around, but that doesn't mean not to have them around you at all. Talk to us about that, about building your circle, about building your tribe, the importance of having community.
Right. It's important. Yeah. It's, I feel when you have that basis around you, when you know it's possible, when you have positive relationships with others, and they're going to be different, right? Because everyone is different. So it's every time it's unique in what I built with someone else, and how we can kind of find a sense of balance in the relationship. For me, it's from that period that I was mentioning in the beginning that I started to maybe attract and manifest more of these allies or friends, who are similar and who are strong enough, so they're not going to be used negatively, right? They need to be wise enough to and to have real love, right? And it's not everyone who's gonna have real love for you. So, but I find a lot, and these faces kind of bring a lot of comfort when when sometimes in my direct reality, maybe I don't see them all the time. I mean, I had managed to build that a little bit more in my life, but I recently lost a very good friend, and another one has kind of disappeared in a black hole due to the war narrative. So all that I had built, also there has been influence and interferences, but I know it's possible, right? Because I was sharing my living space with one of my friend, and he had a really bad car accident. So, but I know it's possible. I know I want to go back there, but maybe not force it, because maybe for now no one is available in my reality. It will take time before they come again. I know it's possible. I've experienced some glimpse of it. Of course, in my online life, but also I think it's important in my physical realities. But it's really important to have these beings who inspire you, with their unique gift, with their light, with how magical they are, with what they bring. Maybe some are musicians, some are healers, some are, they have like strong intuitions. It's just, and you enjoy the conversations you have with them the moment you can share outside of all the programming. And I see this is very important.
It is. It absolutely is. And I'm glad that you shared that with all of us. So many of us feel like we can just do it by ourselves and we don't need anyone. And I just do not feel that to be true at all. But there's so much separation going on in the world, and that programming that we've talked about so much tonight, for that to be known as our truth, and that couldn't be further from the truth. So it was really important for you to share how it is important to have people around us, and that the separation is a non-reality, and that we are meant to be on each other's teams and helping each other through this human experience. We just have moments left, probably about 5 minutes. I want to make sure that everyone knows how to get in touch with you. But first, why would they want to get in touch with you? You offer one-on-ones, you offer courses. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, so I do offer private live consultation, and also like remote services where I send an audio recording. Also, I've started to work with the Energy Remaster app from Secret to Everything, so from Kimberly McGeorge 1 year ago, and it's been quite life-changing in my practice, because that plus my own abilities, kind of collaborate. This technology is really helping to scan different aspects, like the emotional, the psychological, the spiritual, and sometimes the very hidden layers, right? And it's gonna tell us what the body is needing right now, is requesting right now. It can be some herbs, some back flowers, some specific food, some allergies to kind of grow away from. So this is one part of my work, and I work on designing also courses focus on deprogramming, right, or health. So in the past, I have designed 2 courses on health, and also training into recognizing frequency signatures, right, because we all have to keep on building from our progresses because the system is upgrading as it goes. So I share many of the signatures that I have crossed paths with, that I have identified. Some are handlers, some are distraction, as we were talking about. Some are more simulated, and some are more allies. And I think it's really important to be discerning in our reality. So, and I do share a lot about cellular detoxification. So this is a great way to create space, and because from being healthy, more healthy, we can operate from a higher level, right? Mm-hmm. So that's what I propose. And then there is all the free content, because there is a lot on my website and on my YouTube. I also make sure to create sometimes nice conversations with beings that I appreciate, who have inspired me on the road, and what are they doing, what are they up to. I also like this conversation, and we often go into discussing some types of programming, and seeing how it affects us, and what did we find to kind of overcome all of that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's so good. I love that you wander. That makes my heart happy. And it's been so good having you wander with us. For those of you who are not watching us live on video, I just want to make sure you know how to access Ariane. Can you share your website with us?
Yes, it's ariapersei.com. And my YouTube channel is Aria Persei as well. You can even find me on SoundCloud, on Instagram, and on Facebook. And on my website, you can find also a link to my mail address if you want to contact me. On my YouTube channel, you can also share experiences and let me know how you are doing.
Oh, beautiful. And the spelling is ARIAPERSEI.com. For those of you who need that. It's just been wonderful. Oh, and I just want to say really quick, you brought up Dr. Kimberly McGeorge a couple of times. For those of you who want to hear her episode, it was episode 200, and you can find that in the archives on kgradb.com. It was a good episode. She's an amazing person. And I'm happy that you happened to be watching that night so you could connect with me and share time with us this evening. It's just been beautiful to have you here. And I'm so thankful that you reached out. Please do keep in touch. I've enjoyed our conversations before the show and having you here. And it's just been wonderful learning more about you and everything that you share through your YouTube and on your website.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I've been enjoying this conversation so much. It's been going very, very fast.
It went
and
fast.
enjoying many of your other recordings and what you share also online, from scanning your direct realities and sometimes the pressure and the repression that comes with it that we have to overcome. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, my heart is so full. And to all of you, I appreciate you for being here. It's so good to so wander with you each and every single week. It's so good. Make sure you're following not just my show, but all of the other amazing shows here on kgradb.com. Until next week, be good to yourself and be good to each other. Good night.